Well, hello. This is going to be a short video on. Now, you see this person standing here in front of Mistveil Manor. Well, you've seen a lot of them because old Mistveil Manor is one of the most popular houses to own in the Elder Scrolls. Normally, ask this person, "Hey, what are you doing outside my house? What are you selling? Are you from Mary Kay? I'm not interested." And but because it is popular because, well, it's pretty, even though you get stuck looking at a loading screen every time you go into your darn house. Um, it's Nord, meaning it has strong Scandinavian influence. And because of that, this is my approach to decorating old Mistveil Manor. As I say, it's like Full Metal Jacket. There are many like it, but this one is mine. This is my rifle, this is my gun, or whatever. In any case, I'm going to explain what I did, and if you're interested in getting the house, I was very, very skeptical. I did not want to get into instance housing. I'm an old online gamer and thought, well, God, who wants, to share a house, an instance. Basically, you're buying a personal instance. But the cost, around 5,600 crowns, is reasonable given what things cost. And and again, it's a nice woody. It's the Anti-Alinor. If you find Somerset a bit too much, a little too fancy for you, and especially if you grew up on the East Coast, especially the Northeast, Massachusetts, New Hampshire, Vermont, places like that, the landscape will feel familiar to you. If you're a little bit of a history nut, you will appreciate that the architecture, the influences of it are bloody well obvious. Though in most cases, the Norse of the Middle Ages did not use stone quite so often. I approached this like a simulation, like I was going to be living here. I miss the days of simulation in gaming, and so I tried to create. Again, this is your personal space. You create what you want in it. And let me run through it with Arana here. She's going to be sort of your guide. She looks a little bit Nord, yeah, but she's actually an Imperial, and she's a tank. So that's the reason that she is quite fit, because well, she has to wield that big heavy sword, and she of course has this sort of stuff, and so she has to do these sorts of things, and so she needs muscles for that. So she's going to run on a brief tour. First thing I thought was necessary was Ysgramor. Now, Ysgramor, of course, is sort of a composite of many Nordic heroes. Now, keep in mind, most of us, when we think of Nords, we think of Vikings. We think of the sacking of Lindisfarne in 783. We think of the pillaging and all that kind of stuff. But a third of our language, if you're an English speaker, is Old Norse words. And they actually didn't go too far from the truth in a lot of, at least the motifs and the style. So you get Ysgramor here from the achievements furnishings vendor in Riften. And achievements, it's not one of those wacky achievements where you have to have done 8 billion things that took you 6 months of dedicated effort and having no life. No, all you have to do is the achievement of a certain number of quests in when you do the rift in the game, and you can get Ysgramor and the wolf. They come in two separate pieces, but there's the statue in town, so it's very easy to figure out how to do it. The lighting here, of course. Again, first thing I did was I went on a campaign to find every recipe that said Nord, and I did it over a period of quite some time. The lampposts are Nord. Of course, yeah, that is Nord. What else I did was I made it look like the forest was trying to take over the manor. And so I got lots and lots of trees. You can just go to vendors. If you're just feeling a little bored, and just type in trees or just type in Nord or something like that. This is one of those animated trees. As you can see, the branches are slowly moving. Unfortunately, all of the things that fall into that category, and they have that kind of odd sheen, so they don't look quite as real as say, these birch trees and some of the others do. They're all enormous and expensive, so I stuck with one. And there was this big spot in the middle, so I stuck up another thing. Now, the requirements to live here would be, of course, a source of water. You saw the well. You do your laundry outside. There are no indoor facilities for cooking. There are no indoor plumbing. We'll get to the matter of what you do with the sewage a little later. And of course, you need to be chopping wood. And this, again, is from the regular furnishings vendor in Riften. And in fact, most any of the furnishing vendors in the capital cities will sell this. And it's like 100 gold per, hunk. There's like 4 hunks in there to do that. We like to put our pets outside. I wanted to keep it horses. I'm not into the fancy smoldering vaping pets. Yeah, they look cool, but I like to like actual equine transportation. So the floor, oddly enough, was stone, a stone floor for a stable. Pretty weird. You wouldn't want to stand on stone all day, and I'm sure they don't either. There were no stalls, and this was just a matter of, hey, why am I still going? Hey, stop it, stop. Okay, so what I did was I took a bunch of orc counters and, sunk them into, countertops, the large countertops, and I sunk them into the floor and tried to stagger them a little bit so that it looked like, it was a working farm put this together. The stalls are not perfect. They never will be perfect. They're Nord stage. Orc stage. This is orc flooring, orc stage. And those are sunk and flipped against each other and pressed against each other and with some prayer of alignment. The post is a dark elf banner post. It's actually extremely tall and half of it is stone, but it's sunk into the floor and it's to cover up the the horrible mishmash of mashing these things together to create the walls of the stall. But I used the thing where you're supposed to hang the banner to hang lanterns. And these are standard Nord hanging lanterns. And in this case, I don't know what they're hanging on against this rear wall, but they're doing it. They hang there. I assume that, of course, we'd have a stable keeper, and he would sleep in the barn. In fact, you'd want to, if you're a nice hospitable people, say, hey, you can spend the night in the barn. And you can, here, spend the night in the barn. Do your laundry, as I say, outside. I didn't want to go crazy with that. I did not find a recipe for this. They sell clotheslines at the regular vendors. I don't know how some people string them up. This is the short clothesline. It's available at the Crown Store for a pittance. I did have to do some Crown Store items that just aren't in the game. What's really nice about Old Mistveil Manor, apart from its rather rustic hunting lodge quality, is the fact that it has full day-night cycles and weather cycles and things of that nature. For the well, I could not get a Nord well. This is Redguard, and you can get a recipe for that. And if I shut up long enough, you'll hear the dripping of the water inside the well. And you look down at the well, and it's like, whoa, it's deep. Now, you have to place this well away from any of this grass and other things, because the grass will miraculously, it's very hardy grass up here in Skyrim, it'll poke right through the masonry. This is simply keg. There's a recipe, it's not very expensive, for keg. I don't like the fact that they've made a caricature of Scandinavian people for this. In that, if you go to Windhelm, they're always drunk all the time. But let's say, we'll just sort of leave it to your imagination how often your characters drink. And of course, the drinking horn, you can see here, next to the keg, is another readily obtainable item through a recipe. Now, I'll get into the matter of the recipes later, because buying all the recipes means that you can become a manufacturing facility for for these items. You might, in a lot of cases, just buy the darn things, because a lot of people just stick them on vendors, the items themselves, like this bent amphora. Or a lot of, why always have the recipe? Well, I just wanted to be able to make the stuff myself. This is the cargo wagon, again Nord, again available to a recipe, and it drops fairly frequently. Same thing with these beets, the potatoes, which I was going to use as horse manure if I could just color them a different thing. The fact there is no horse manure is a little bit odd. But again, the cooking has to take place outside. There are no Dutch ovens in the fireplaces, as you will see. There are no cooking facilities inside the home. So it has to take place outside, and you'll see that throughout East March, throughout the Rift, at a lot of these houses and camps and things like that, outdoor cooking facilities. So in this case, I used, I have two provisioners, and I thought might as well have a crafting station that doubles. Right now, the clockwork crafting, the clockwork cooking thing is a little too, forget it. This actually looks like you're cooking outdoors. Again, various Nord vases and things. It's very odd. This is a glazed one over here, and it's odd that they look Bronze Age. Now, for this brazier, here's a amphora that isn't bent. The brazier is imperial, and again, it's readily obtainable from vendors or through recipe. Now, the color temperature of light is kind of important here, because you'll notice how everything is sort of warm toned. The light is warm toned. Now, some of the light sources, you're going to need lots of light sources in your house and things. And the problem with the light sources is some of them are extremely cold. And if I could actually get Arana here to sneak up behind to a deactivated light source that I found just didn't fit, these candles here, this candle group or any of the Daedric candles, if you light them, you'll find that the color temperature is kind of cold. Not so bad in this case, but when it gets dark, you'll see that this color temperature clashes a lot with the brazier and the other light sources. Again, I'm being a little nerdy with this, but the Daedric ones are even worse. So, you want to stick with the theme of those light because of the color temperature and the fact that Elder Scrolls Online has the best shader in online gaming, which you call lighting is actually a shader. So, you need, of course, this banner near Iskamor, which is the banner celebrating the trip of the 500 companions from Atmora to Skyrim to invade and slaughter the Snow Elves. Now, actually, they were already in Skyrim. They had come from Atmora, Iskamor and his two sons, long ago. But for some reason, the Snow Elves decided to massacre every Nord they could find, and so only Iskamor and his two sons survived. And they made it back to Atmora, mounted an invasion party, and came back. This is them on the return. And, of course, you can see the longship theme. And, of course, you can see the keg. There are several kegs around the property. These lanterns, again, you can get it from a recipe, or you can just buy them. Don't get them from the Crown Store, because they'll really get you for them. Okay. Now, these kind of structures are cold, and you wanted to hang something on the walls. And in this case, I couldn't find anything, beyond the Dragon Banner and Iskamor's Crossing. So these are actually high elf tapestries. And yeah, I said this is the Anti-Alinor, but they're somewhat scenic, and they serve the purpose, which is it's cold. It's a cold climate. And so the hallway, you want some kind of insulation. You want something to absorb. All right. You see the mandatory bearskin rug again. I would not suggest getting the recipe. It's very expensive. It can run like 30,000 gold. You can spend 4,000 or 5,000 or less and just buy the damn thing. Same thing with these chandeliers. The mandatory Nord antler chandeliers. Again, the recipe is extremely expensive. For a fraction of the cost, just buy the damn chandeliers. Lots of people make them and sell them in guild stores. This is a Nord counter. The only expensive part about this is this corner, oddly. The recipe for it is oddly expensive. I think it's probably due to its rarity. Bottle, again, recipe. Cup, recipe. Drinking horn, recipe. Readable books. Readable books can be purchased from most mage guilds. In most mage guilds, the vendors, usually it's the mystic vendors, sell various collections of books. They're about 500 gold a piece. You get them in packages of 10. You're not going to need that many because when we get upstairs, I'll show you how placing them, if you stack them in a bookshelf, is a pain in the tuchus. Again, a Nord vessel of some kind, and of course, yeah, Sheogorath. Now, this is mostly Nord stuff, except for the plates. I couldn't find decent plates. I wound up actually with High Elf plates. But again, all the rest of this stuff is available. The sweet roll, of course. We're assuming they're drinking wine, except this guy obviously has a drinking horn. He's drinking something else. Knives and forks, you can barely make them out. I wouldn't bother with them. They're they're anguished to place, and but the fundamental lighting sources you want, you have these wonderful little the candle holder cup, and there's the tea holder cup, and they provide a nice warm color temperature to illuminate the room or your little busts. I really wish we had tool tips for these monster heads, because often we forget. What monster was that we killed and I got, a notification it was in my collection? Yeah, this is the tea light one. It provides a little more light. All right. Now these paintings, some of them are nice, but all of them are loading screens. If you play Elder Scrolls once a day, if you just log in once a day and do one thing, you're going to spend about I forget what I calculated, over 21 hours staring at loading screens. So what they did was, I guess they figured we like that. So the major paintings, these major bolted paintings, like that one of Winter this is actually a loading screen, I think, for Hrothgar, of all things. But it said Winter Scene. These are loading screens made into art. So as if you didn't have enough of loading screens to begin with. But actually, they're just atmospheric. And you can do whatever you want with the storeroom. Again, you can have the hanging meat. You can have your tangerines, your beets. You can go crazy with that. A lot of people like to do big stacks of them and then put their little assistant vendors there. Ah, yes. That's the loading screen up there for Craigenmore. Not Craigenmore. What am I saying? Craiglorn. Craigenmore is a type of scotch. Oh, God. All right. Now, books. Again, you can buy the books. This is a Nord bookcase. But you can see placing them is a bit of a pain, because you can see some of them poking kind of funny. Getting them all straight and all right. Oh, God, it can drive you freaking mental. And, of course, you need a desk. The pen holder and quill you get separately, and you just simply do a little bit of whatever to place them. You'll get very used to the interface, believe me. And you'll grow to like it in some ways if you're used to games like Ultima Online, or hate it. Now, wouldn't it have been nicer to sort of be, have like antlers here rather than a big sucking, thing? I don't know. It's not in the bedroom, but it's outside the bedroom. Very little privacy in the Middle Ages. So the idea of people sharing, having your own personal sleeping quarters would have been very unusual. But again, you can see the placement of the light is very important. And the color of the light, color temperature of the light, very important. So stick to this. This is the long-lasting candle. Common candle, lasting. Again, readily available. I don't think this is actually a loading screen, this one here. It looks like an English landscape. So that one has that. This is, it's a dark elf, it's a high elf rug. But I figured, there's only so many kinds of rugs. This is the canopy bed. You can see the motif of the dragon ship sort of motif. The problem with the beds is you can't sleep on them. You can't even get in them. You might be able to get on them, but I don't know if we're not going to bother with that. Okay. I'm moving. Dragon banner, moving. Single bed here, again, with all of them with nightstands, and there are 4 different types of these foot lockers, these chest things. So you get a little bit of variety in that, again, and stay with the Nord theme. All right. This, I got re-upped for my 3 months of Prime, and I got some crowns, and I fell for the temptation to buy this potted plant. The potted plants that you normally see, or the potted fixtures with the ferns coming out of them, I could not find. And this did not suit that purpose because they're as an indoor thing, so I stuck it out here. The crafting stations I decided to get were the ones that I wanted to have personal access to, like the outfit station. If you're playing with outfits and you're playing with dice schemes and things like that, you don't want to be, doing it in a crowded place. Um, you want to be able to do it, in the privacy of your home and that sort of thing. So that's why I went with that for this. Um, let's see what other things we got. Let's see what other things. Okay, yeah, we can die. And yeah, you just have it to yourself. And so I thought that was a suitable use of. Oh God, I hate that thing. Oh, it's blood spawn. Yeah, my changes will be lost. I accept. I accept. I accept. Okay. So I like to be able to swap out costumes and mess with them without being in a public place with lots of people running around firing off spells or occluding you with their sork pets and their warden bears. Okay. The other ones I went with, you can, of course, these are like 35 of those little deli tickets. Your number in line. You're waiting for your number to come up at the deli to be served. Those vouchers, that's what they're called. Vouchers. They don't call them deli tickets. They're 35 each. So if you want to, why should you do these master writs outside of them giving you a nice burst of experience? Because you can get these things. Now, given the fact that there is no, it's just a regular alchemy station, there is no potion of the Hunding's Rage. In other words, it doesn't fit into a set piece thing. That would be kind of interesting if you could take a potion and then suddenly complete your set of armor. But I stuck with the generic things, the things that have no set pieces attached and would actually provide some convenience, like making a bunch of potions before you go out, making a bunch of, you don't make a bunch of glyphs, but again, that's something that you often do. Because you're preparing, to make a set of things, and then you go somewhere else to make the armor. Okay, well, we've pretty much covered it, except for the outhouse area. See, the thing is, I was going to put bedpans in this thing, because what they used was bedpans. We have sewers in the cities, Wayrest sewers. I'm sure you've all been there. And all of that. I don't know how the excrement gets from the people to the sewers. We have cradles and no children. We have sewers and no toilets. We don't really have bedpans. And so what I was going to do is put an outhouse over here. But instead I decided to do the target skeleton things. Whatever you do not buy the Centurion target skeleton. It is a ridiculous number of hit points, as you can see. It's meant to simulate a trial boss, which means it's meant for, like 8 people to be wailing on it. So as far as practicality goes, this guy is supposed to represent a regular dungeon boss. This guy, a veteran dungeon boss. And if you want to practice your sustain, if you want to practice, what I like to practice is moving while hitting things. I decided to use that instead for target dummies. A lot of this foliage, as I say, added after the fact. And I kept it simple. So, as I say, you can do whatever you want with these. I've seen old Mistveil Manor turn into a Daedric Palace. It's up to you. There's one constant in this game, and that is nobody gives a damn about your house but you. You may be proud of it. You may even make a video about it. But I made this video not because I'm particularly proud of it or I think you're going to be terribly interested in it, but you might be thinking, well, geez, what if I'm interested in this? What approach to take? I just wanted to explain my approach to it. Don't do what I did. You don't go crazy on the recipes, because you're not going to be being a Nordic furniture or furnishings manufacturer. But as I say, most of this stuff is available. It's available cheap. You don't have to go Crown Store crazy to do it, and it can be very pleasant. And as I say, just look at the light, and the light as it cycles through the day, because in every day, it goes through a day-night cycle. A little later in the day, you'll see the sun just over, behind her shoulder, and it'll rain, it'll thunder and rain, and you'll have a nice night cycle. So that's another reason why all the lampposts, because it's very, very pleasant. What I do, this is going to sound nerdy as hell, but I find it, you listen to the soundtrack in the background? That's North Point Nocturne. It's a wonderful ambient soundtrack. And there's two wonderful ambient soundtracks in this game, in this zone. And so what you can do is you just sit out here and put on an audio book and just relax. And it's your place. Nobody cares about it but you. But damn it, it can be relaxing. There's no combat. There's no people, throwing mud packs in your face. There's nobody shooting off spells while leaping and leaping and leaping in the bank. There's no sork pets. There's no warden bears. There's no obnoxious anything. It's just you. And you got those little spikes you see on the wall there to keep people out just in case they think of crawling over. And yeah, all kinds of people, you're going to see all kinds of people crawling out of the door when you're coming up to it who think they own the place, but they don't. You do. So good luck with yours if you decide to go with it, or any place. The housing is actually kind of fun. Thanks. Bye.